Wait a minute, that's not right. Bron Breakker may have put Ricochet on the shelf for good. Liv Morgan wants to be the next R-rated superstar. And WWE hands out title shots to its Scots like Oprah. Plus, one champion undisputably needs to be asked, what were you thinking? Okay! In the news! In the news, indeed, we had another week of Monday Night Raw that only featured one world title opportunity, which was for the World Tag Team Championships between the Awesome Truth and the Authors of Pain. Scarlett found R-Truth backstage before the match, and R-Truth yet again agreed to defend the titles. However, AOP didn't really need to do that as they were clearly deserving of an opportunity. Nonetheless, this one started pretty quickly during the commercial break, and when we returned, R-Truth was in control and was about ready to hit the 5 moves of doom when Miz was about to join him to hit that 10-knuckle shuffle, but Scarlett distracted the ref, allowing Cross to take out both of their legs. However, the New Day came out and took out Cross, distracting Akam and allowing Truth to hit Akam in the back with the title belt, and then getting a quick roll-up for the pin. This was Awesome Truth's 4th title defense since winning it at WrestleMania, and they go to 7-1 in all tag matches. For the AOP, while they deserved a shot, this did stop a 3-match winning streak, and they fall to 5-2 in traditional tags. But our match of the week was just a little bit earlier when we saw Bron Breakker take on Ilya Dragunov in a hard-hitting affair. Dragunov controlled the match early with several devastating chops, and later landed an H-bomb, but Breakker was able to roll out of the ring before Dragunov could go for the pin. Breakker then turned the tide outside where he worked on Dragunov's ribs that he had been weakening over the weeks with so many spears. And he landed 3 straight rib shots off the announce table, then off the barricade, then off the ring post, before finally hitting a spear in the middle of the ring, but Dragunov was also able to roll outside of the ring. Breakker was smelling blood, however, at that point, and he landed another devastating spear outside the ring. Breakker got back in the ring to get the 10 count, but Dragunov rolled in at the count of 9. However, he was pretty much defenseless as Breakker hit one more spear to get the win. Both men gave everything in this match, and it was everything we could have ever wanted to see on Monday Night Raw, as Breakker, however, goes to a very impressive undefeated 7-0 since his main roster call-up, while Dragunov looked awfully good, but still has now dropped 3 in a row, falling to 2-3. In our main event, we saw Drew McIntyre take on Finn Balor in a match that was set up for a stipulation for Clash at the Castle, in which if Balor won, the Judgment Day would all be at ringside, but if Balor lost, they would be banned. So Balor smartly worked on McIntyre's injured right arm, but it was not quite enough, as McIntyre lined up for a Claymore. Priest, Carlito, and McDonough all came out to distract him, which temporarily worked as Balor went for a coup de grace. However, McIntyre was able to avoid it and hit the Claymore to get the win. Therefore, the Judgment Day will be banned from ringside at Clash. For McIntyre, this was his first win since WrestleMania, but he does improve to a very impressive 8-2. For Balor, despite winning last week, he is now just 1-4 in one-on-one matches. Elsewhere on Raw, we saw Sami Zayn take on Otis in this never-ending Alpha Academy saga, whereas we had more of the same drama backstage, and Sami talked to all of the other members of Alpha Academy besides Gable, and even told Otis that he was worth something. However, when we got to the match, Otis started strong with several clubbing blows and splashes on Zayn, but Gable spoke a little bit too much to Otis, causing a distraction, and as soon as Otis turned around, Sammy was right there with a haluva kick to get a quick victory. Gable then immediately attacked, and Otis, after some brief hesitation, listened to Gable and both hit a splash and a World's Strongest Slam on Zayn. For Zayn, he does go to 8-5, with his only loss being to his opponent at Clash at the Castle, Chad Gable, on Saturday. Otis, however, drops to 0-5 in all singles matches in 2024. Next, we saw a partial preview of the Women's Tag Team Championship set up for Clash as Jade and Bianca looked on as Shayna and Zoe took on Isla Dawn and Alba Fire. Shayna seemed annoyed when Dawn tried to take out her injured right knee that she had hurt at NXT Battleground over the weekend as she quickly choked out Alba Fire to get the win. For Shayna and Zoe, they continue to look impressive and are 8-2 in tag matches, but their only 2 losses have been in championship matches. For Fire and Dawn, they dropped to just 0-2 in 2024. Also on the women's side, we saw Io Sky try to get some revenge on Lyra Valkyria, which was a strong match to kick off Raw. Lyra intercepted Io's springboard attempt off of the ropes, which allowed Lyra to hit a Nightwing, but before she could get the 3 count, Dakota hit Lyra from behind, which I am not sure how the ref didn't see, but however, the match went on. So later, Io missed her second over the moonsault attempt of the match, but Lyra went for the pin. However, Io then reversed it right back and rolled her up for the win. Dakota and Kairi immediately attacked Lyra after the match, but then quickly went to see Io, who, as soon as they got there, then did her own attacking of Lyra. And then backstage later, Io somehow was still upset despite the win and stormed off, saying that Damage Control needed to change. Both competitors have pretty similar records as Io improved to 5-2 in one-on-one matches, while Lyra fell to 4-2. Lastly, we had a 6-man tag, again between the LWO and Friends against the Judgment Day and Friends, featuring Ray, Dragon Lee, and Strowman against Dom, McDonough, and Carlito. Despite some good wrestling throughout this one, it again focused on Liv and Dom, which Zelina hit Liv off of the apron from behind, causing her to, in a non-very PG manner, fall on top of Dom. But Zelina then continued to attack Liv, and those two had to be separated, which then eventually allowed Strowman to hit a running power slam on Carlito to get the win. This was the first match for these 2 particular groups of 3, so we don't expect much of that going forward. So beyond the mat for Raw, we have to continue to talk about Liv and Dom. Wow. Liv was just brazenly in the Judgment Day locker room when Dom walked in on her. Liv gave Dom her hotel card, which ended up being a running gag throughout the rest of the show. And the Judgment Day had to decide what to do with the hotel card. Eventually, it seemed that Finn Balor was the one to grab it off of the table and stow it away. So we'll see if that means anything for the future. Next, we had a couple more Money in the Bank potential entrants as Kaiser and Sheamus both declared their intent to be the Money in the Bank winner, and Michael Cole said that matches to qualify would begin next week on Raw. Lastly, with Adam Pearce MIA for some unknown reason, Bron Breakker was allowed yet again to run amok backstage as he hit a devastating spear on Dragunov into an equipment box after their match, and then Ricochet tried to come to his defense. However, Breakker eventually overpowered him, taking him outside and eventually slamming him through a car windshield. This forced Ricochet to have to go with the hospital, so let's hope he is not out for long, but we certainly wish him the best in whatever it is that he may be up to next, but hopefully we see him back in WWE before long. And on SmackDown, we yet again did not have a whole lot going on of importance, so we'll again just go in order. So first we had Bianca and Jade take on Candice and Indy in a non-title match. Apparently Candice recovered quickly after just 1 week of being injured, so the singles match was turned into a tag match, And even though Candice and Indy did a pretty good job of slowing down Bianca for a while, once Jade tagged in, she wrecked both of them, and Bianca and Jade quickly hit their very impressive but still seemingly unnamed tag team finisher, and they get the win to go to 5-0. For Candice and Indy, they've now dropped 2 in a row to them and are now 4-6 overall. After the match, Fire and Dawn and Shayna and Zoe were standing ringside, so once the match was over, they attacked Bianca and Jade, but eventually they turned on each other, so Bianca and Jade ended up taking all 4 of them out to end the segment. Next, we had Johnny Gargano take on Grayson Waller in apparently DIY's continuing quest to get a tag team title match by winning singles matches. And even though Gargano hit several big moves, including a sliced bread onto the floor, a springboard spear, and a modified destroyer, it was not enough, as his suicide dive attempt did not hit Waller, as he placed Theory in front of the dive instead, allowing Waller to hit the Unprettier to get the win. For Waller, this was just his first win of the year in singles action, going to 1-2, and for Gargano, this was his first one-on-one match of the year, so he is 0-1. Third, we had LA Knight take on Carmelo Hayes, and Knight pretty much took it to the rookie during most of the match. However, when he went for a BFT, Hayes was able to reverse it and roll up Knight, even grabbing the tights to get the win, but Knight was able to reverse that and get the pin for himself, winning to go to 6-3 in one-on-one matches, while Hayes continues to prove to be an absolute bust of a draft pick, falling to just 4-1. Lastly, in the main event, we had Kevin Owens and the Street Profits take on the Bloodline. Now, the Bloodline did control most of the match, but KO reversed a Samoan spike by Sikoa and turned it into a stunner. Sikoa was able to get out of the ring, but he shortly thereafter used a steel chair on Montez Ford to cause a disqualification. This was the first match for both exact 3-man groups, so we don't expect that to continue going forward. Beyond the mat for SmackDown, we'll continue with the Bloodline as the show kicked off with Solo Sikoa and Paul Heyman anointing Tonga as the new right-hand man and Loa as a full-fledged Bloodline member. Sikoa also made Heyman say sorry to both Tonga and Loa for having to save him last week. Now, I will admit that Heyman is not an actor and he is just the wise man, but he better start showing some gumption or else he's going to get himself kicked out of the Bloodline. Later, we had Angel and Berto both attack Apollo Crews backstage during an interview. Officials quickly intervened, but Crews still had to go to medical, which caused Aldis to have to change the match into that Knight versus Hayes match. We also saw Cody Rhodes go to the ring as soon as AJ Styles showed up to the arena, and he went to the ring telling Styles that he wanted to fight him right there, right now. Styles refused and said he wouldn't fight him unless he got his championship match, so of course Rhodes agreed and even made it an I Quit match. Rhodes didn't stop there as he tried to go through several security guards to get to Styles. However, he was unsuccessful in doing so, and Styles got the one final punch on Rhodes. Also backstage, we saw Michin annoy Nia, but when Nia brought up AJ's name, she threw a drink in Nia's face, so Nia threw her over a table. And then we also saw Chelsea Green do Chelsea Green things and annoy Naomi, and so we will have 2 separate women's matches for both of those groups next week. So with that, let's go to the OK question of the week. Sports Zoo, what do you got for me? Doc, is WWE handing out title opportunities for Scotland natives way too easily? Well, thank goodness you didn't ask me about Liv and Dom again. I don't think I could have done it 2 weeks in a row. So to answer your much better question, yes, you're right, they do not deserve it. Let's take these matches one by one. First, we do have Drew McIntyre challenging Damian Priest for the World Heavyweight title, and yes, he does deserve it. He is from Ayr, Scotland, and Priest granted him this title shot while he was injured, but McIntyre certainly deserves it anyways, having been the champion at WrestleMania and then losing it to Priest with the Money in the Bank cash-in, so this rematch certainly deserves to happen. However, when we then look at the women's matches, the same does not apply. First, the WWE Women's Championship will be defended by Bayley against Piper Niven, who's from Ayrshire, Scotland, and Piper certainly does not deserve this match. She has 0 singles wins this year, and she only has 1 singles match of the year when she lost to Jade in the Queen of the Ring first round, and she only has 2 other singles matches of any other sort, losing in the Royal Rumble and then also in the Battle Royal that Becky won to win the championship earlier in the year. Her last singles win was all the way back on October 16th, 2023, which is 8 months ago. Piper and Chelsea did beat Naomi and Bayley on June 3rd SmackDown, but that certainly should not be enough to become a singles #1 contender, so terrible job for WWE allowing Piper to have this opportunity. Lastly, the Women's Tag Team Championships will see Jade and Bianca defend their titles against Shayna and Zoe, who still continue to deserve a shot, and against Alba Fire and Isla Dawn, who certainly do not deserve to be anywhere near this championship. Fire is from Paisley, Scotland, and Dawn is from Glasgow, Scotland, where this match will be taking place for Clash at the Castle. Fire and Dawn have 0 tag matches and 0 matches of any sort since the 2 of them both lost in singles competition to Raquel Rodriguez, who won the Battle Royal to earn a spot in the Elimination Chamber back on February 19th. They lost to Carter and Chance on January 19th with an undeserved title shot for the tag team titles then, and their only other match before then for the title was against Ronda and Shayna back in June of 2023 when the 2 titles were merged and Ronda and Shayna took both of them. Their only win ever on the main roster was on May 19th, 2023 against Valentina Feroz and Yulissa Leone, who I'm sure you've never thought of since that very day and probably never will again. So how Fire and Dawn have gotten a few tag team title matches in that time, but no other matches of any sort, is truly a shocking mystery. So needless to say, those 2 do not deserve to be in this match, and quite frankly, the way they looked on Monday, with Fire getting choked out very quickly, it certainly makes them look like pretenders instead of contenders. Now, I will admit it certainly makes sense for all of them to cause a ruckus against the champions to try to get this shot in front of their hometown crowd, and it obviously worked for them, but why would WWE want to do this? You want people with no wins to get your title shots? No, that's crazy. What happens if they somehow miraculously do win? Is that who you want to represent the WWE? The 0 win and I guess suppose 1 win champions? No, it's not a good look at all. Win a few matches to earn your shot. That's how they've got to do it. Start from the bottom and then get to the top. Now for everyone's favorite segment, what were you thinking? This week we asked Cody Rhodes, what were you thinking for taking out all of the security guards? You had just gotten your I Quit match against AJ Styles, but for some reason that wasn't good enough for you. Styles starts walking down the ramp, but no, you also leave the ring, go down to the floor, and 3 security guards come up to greet you. Where out of the clear blue, what do? You give a knee to the groin of the first security guard, then you punch the second security guard, and then you punch the third one, and then throw him up against the steel steps. But no, that's not all. Then we have one more at a time coming at you. The next gentleman comes up, and what do? Kick him in the stomach. A second security guard comes up, and you kick him in the stomach, and then once he's down, punch him once more. And then a third security guard comes up, and you kick him in the stomach, and then throw him into the ring. At that point, you have completely lost it because you run up the ramp and jump right into 6 more security guards. Fortunately, they are able to carry you down the ramp and hold you down from there, which, funnily enough, and probably deservedly, AJ Styles comes up with a flying forearm and knocks you and all the security guards down. They are able to recover fast enough and hold you down a second time to end the segment. But Cody Rhodes, I can't even believe it. What kind of a WWE champion are you? This is not the makings of a true champion. And for that, Cody Rhodes, what were you thinking? And our STFs this week, we will start again with our standard Bloodline edition. First, at the beginning of the show, Kevin Owens came out and attacked all 3 members of the Bloodline, and the Street Profits came out to help. But since Owens came right down the ramp, this was clearly a fair fight, so no fines for anyone. But at the end of the night, we did have Sikoa hitting forward with a steel chair to cause the disqualification, and then the Bloodline continued their attack with Sikoa hitting a spear on KO and then having all 3 members hitting a triple powerbomb through the announce table. This was close to a suspension, but we're just going to give all 3 members of the Bloodline a fine for this. Earlier, we had Michin instigate a fight against Nia when she walked right up to her and then eventually led to her throwing a drink into her face. Nia did retaliate and throw her over a table, but only Michin's going to get a fine for this one. Angel Lamberto attacked Apollo Crews during Crews' interview segment, causing him to be injured and causing their match to be canceled. So Angel and Berto are both getting a 1-week suspension. And as we just talked about on What Were You Thinking, Cody Rhodes plowed through those security guards, so he is getting a 4-week suspension. Just truly unbecoming of your WWE champion. Then on Raw, in the standard Judgment Day segment, we surprisingly have Zelina attacking Liv, knocking her off the apron during the match, and then later attacking her while she was on top of Dom. So for that, we will give Zelina just a fine, but we will thank her from stopping it from becoming something other than a TV PG show. We also saw Gable attack Zayn right after his match against Otis, and then Otis did follow Gable's suit and eventually land a World's Strongest Slam on him, so both Gable and Otis are getting fines this week. During the tag team title match, we had Scarlett distracting the ref, which allowed Cross to take out both of Awesome Truth's team members' legs. While this didn't cause Awesome Truth to lose the match, it will still get a fine for both Scarlett and for Cross. After Breakker had defeated Dragunov, it looked like he was going to spear Dragunov one more time up against the barricade, but fortunately Ricochet came out of the crowd and stopped Breakker in his tracks. So no one is getting any fines for that. However, Breakker was not done as he gave a devastating spear to Dragunov backstage, putting him through an equipment box, and then took Ricochet outside where he eventually slammed him through a windshield of a car. That caused Ricochet to go to the hospital, and for that brutal, violent attack, Breakker is getting a 4-week suspension. Well, it was another week where Liv tried to turn up the heat on Dom and the Judgment Day. We saw Breakker and Rhodes completely lose their cool, and everybody from Scotland is about to get their title shot at Clash of the Castle. I'm Doktor O'Kay, reporting on the WWE, where everything is okay.